Deputy Herissier, who's filed 2 amendments to the proposal on the Electoral Commission proposition, which is with PPC. It's all getting a bit complicated. People like myself are finding it very difficult to follow. What's your understanding of the current situation and your amendments?
Well, basically I thought the States was abiding by the Deputy of St Mary's proposition, asking for an independent commission, but it appears the new PPC had second thoughts, and they've decided that they want States members on the Commission and they want a States member chairing it, which I find very confusing.
Where's the initiative for that coming from, do you think?
From PPC. I would imagine it's coming from supporters of Senator Sir Philip Baloch, who feel that he gained a very massive mandate at the senatorial elections, and that therefore this gave them the right to sort of arrange for him to be chairman, if possible.
It's rather curious what's happened, because the States agreed the Wimberley proposition. They agreed to do it. It was given to PPC to do it, but PPC have now altered it. Shouldn't it have gone back to the States to be altered, and then PPC should have another go at it?
Well, it probably should have, but it has to be said by doing this that they have effectively triggered a debate on their right to alter it. So we'll probably, the 2 debates will be subsumed in one.
Your amendments are precisely what?
My amendment is that all the members of the Commission should be independent. There should be 7. There were going to be 6. I thought that it would be good to get a voting majority if necessary. There should be 7. They should be appointed by a procedure overseen by the Jersey Appointments Commission. And we should bring back what had mysteriously dropped, electoral systems. I did ask for electoral registration to come back as well, but it's now being dealt with, to confuse matters, by a subcommittee of PPC. It's looking at electoral registration. It's part of its mandate.
Electoral reform, composition of the States, has been kicked around for so many years in the public's mind. This is a rather discredited subject, and it's discredited the States. Is this going to bring yet more discredit on the system?
Well, these particular, if I may call them shenanigans, might well do that, because the States, after a painful 10-11 years, said, look, we can't handle this anymore, the vested interests are too great, there's too much polarisation in the States and possibly amongst the general population. We want an independent commission to look at it. We will wave it through, was the theory, and then their recommendations will be hopefully wrapped up in such a fashion that they can be put to a referendum.
The public, obviously when it gets to referendum stage, will obviously participate if it gets that far. In the initial stages, it seems a pity that the public haven't been drawn in rather more.
Well, as you well know, Mike, there's been massive public consultation over the years. There have been findings from people like Murray which have often been to contradict each other, to add to the confusion and the helplessness of certain groups. But there will be a proper procedure for taking evidence. Unlike closure, it will be open unless there are extenuating circumstances. And I would imagine, once the proposals themselves are formulated, there will be proper and very active and lively public debate, and that's where I would expect the likes of Senator Sir Philip Baloch to take a strong stand, to lead their particular group in trying to influence that debate.
Obviously the worry is that it will have got crystallised into certain agenda by the time the public get to have a go at it, wouldn't it?
It will have, but I mean, it doesn't take an Einstein to realise what some of the key issues are going to be, and they're key issues about which the public feel very, very strongly on either side. Matters like the role of the constables, matters like whether we should be an all-senator type assembly, and so forth. So yes, there already are crystallised issues, and I think we'll try and run the debate yet again, but I think at this point we really need the public's view on what way we should be going.
The referendum idea sounds good. It sounds like public participation, but it's going to be a package of ideas, package of reforms. Do you accept them or not, sort of question, isn't it?
It probably will be, because the history of this sad saga has been that when you put partial reforms forward, they have hidden or unintended consequences for the other reforms. I mean, we went into that quagmire when we discussed the whole issue of should we or should we not get rid of 2 senators. I was very, very ambivalent about what we did, but we had a package, the only package we've got to so far, which included a minimal reduction in numbers. It included a single day for the various elections. Quite frankly, in terms of the bigger picture, it wasn't an awful lot, but we were essentially presented with a package.
2 members of the PPC have already written a minority report. They've already dissented. The falling apart is already happening. That doesn't bode well for...
No, but it's symptomatic of what's happened all the way through on the reform debate. And you've got to remember, as you will probably remember, the 1948 reforms, they were undertaken by a committee headed by no less a person than the Home Secretary, of basically worthy people who came, worthy males, white middle-class males, who came over from England and basically told the states this is what they thought should happen. The debates still occurred around the constables, and even more furiously than now around the role of the bailiff. But that was imposed on us, and in those days, I suppose, of greater deference, people were prepared to accept it.
Of course, people have the belief that governments are there to change things. By and large, governments are there to maintain the status quo. That's the nature of government, isn't it?
No, I'm not sure I totally agree with your analysis. Certainly, Jersey obviously is a fairly conservative society. It likes tradition, and it can be very difficult when you try and interfere with that tradition. And there is no doubt, in some cases, a lot of the change we bring about is change that is probably forced upon us, like changes in our relationship, or in relation to issues with the United Kingdom and so forth. Changes perhaps in relation to more global conventions like the Human Rights Convention and so forth. Obviously, we are a traditional society.
The parishioners of St Clement have come out in their multitude to sign a proposition that there should be a parish meeting to discuss these things. You've been invited to speak to that meeting on your amendments, because it's about your amendment, which is the parish meeting will take place. I don't suppose you've any idea whether you'll be allowed to speak at that parish meeting, will you?
Well, if I'm available, yes, I will come, and assuming the chairman allows me, I will address it. I don't see how he can stop people like me, because obviously if the aim is, under the lodging or greffe procedure, and I'm very glad to see that tradition revived at long last, if the aim is to inform the parishioners, they have to hear from all relevant parties. Well,
I would have thought so, but he was on the radio suggesting that only parishioners would be allowed to speak, never mind vote.
Well, maybe he's referring allowed to speak from the body of the audience, but in terms of people making a presentation about what the thinking is behind this rather confused picture, as you suggested, I would have thought the key people have to speak. I don't see any
I would hope
argument.
so. I would hope so. Even Mr Wimberley, if he was to come along, I hope he would be allowed to speak, even though he's no longer in the States. But we should have to see. The other slightly odd thing is that, of course, the Constable of St Clement, who's going to chair, is on the PPC committee.
Yes. It might be prudent for him to sort of give the chair to somebody else, I would have thought.
And then he can sit in the audience and participate in the debate quite freely.
Yes, or maintain a prudent silence.
Are the parishioners of St Saviour expressing any view that you know to call a similar?
I haven't heard any views about calling a meeting on the lines you're suggesting, but obviously there are never-ending discussions about the reform of the states. I think to an extent a lot of them are very fed up with what's happened, but there are never-ending discussions, and I think on some of the key issues people's minds are changing, hence the need for a referendum, and hence the need to update the kind of assumptions or the kind of thinking or the kind of public opinion that we were told underlay Clothier.
Okay, well, we shall see the ghost of Clothier no doubt coming back in over the next few months.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.